Hello there, and we are here with the Fastmarkets Live Lounge, coming to you live from the Lithium Supply and Battery Raw Materials Conference in Las Vegas. It is where the industry's key conversations are happening, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Ken Brinsden, who is one of the most recognized names in global lithium. Now, Ken first made headlines as the CEO who helped transform Pilbara Minerals into a powerhouse of hard rock lithium production in Australia. Now he's bringing that playbook to Patriot Metals with really big ambitions to help shape the next phase of North American supply. And just before I turn to Ken to sort of dig into those aims, just a quick reminder that this episode is brought to you by Aquatech. Now, they're a global leader in industrial water treatment and sustainable process technologies. They're really helping some of the companies across the battery and mining sectors address some of their most critical challenges. Ken, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the introduction, Georgia. Nice to be with you.
It's a pleasure. Okay, let's start at the beginning with your career story in many ways. I'm going to sort of focus on you first and then on the companies second. How did you find your way into the lithium space?
Well, I fell into it, I think is probably the best way to describe it. Georgia, I was involved in iron ore in the Pilbara region of Western Australia, and I was lucky enough to be connected to some geos that had made an amazing discovery in the lithium world that went on to become the Pilgangoora mine as part of Pilbara Minerals or now PLS. And I just consider myself really lucky to have had those connections and coming into the lithium world at a time when it was starting to gain some preeminence. And I've been very lucky to be involved in the journey since.
And I mean, Pilbara Metals is one of those huge success stories. You were there for the sort of transformational period of that company. How's that shaped your career going forwards?
Well, it was one of the longest overnight success stories I could have possibly imagined, Georgia, because there was quite a few highs and lows amongst it all. Lithium can be a challenging environment to build a mining company. And we definitely experienced a few of those lows in the process of building Pilbara Minerals. But in the end, a great team, fantastic project, and a bit of resilience. And hence you have the powerhouse that you've described that PLS is today. So I consider myself really lucky to have been a part of it.
It must have taught you that ability to sort of sit back, hold counsel, and ride it out.
Well, lithium is still a young industry. And I look at that and think that represents opportunity. Because it's a young industry, there's a chance to innovate, to insert yourself into the market in a way that might not have been imagined, even just a couple of years ago. And it's also an industry that's growing a global footprint. So why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? With the benefit of hindsight, it's probably one of the best things that happened in my career was to be, well, firstly in the Pilbara and then be introduced to some geos who had some exploration success. Lithium is one of those commodities that's changing the world. It's decarbonising the global economy. And as a simple mining engineer, I look at that and think, well, for one of the first times in my career, I can say we're now part of the solution as compared to being part of the problem.
And now you've taken that sense of purpose to Patriot Metals. What are you hoping to... are you hoping to recreate the same success? I imagine you must be.
Yes. And to me, what it comes down to, actually in the scheme of things, it's a pretty simple idea. It all starts with great geology. And that was definitely the case in the discovery I described earlier in the Pilbara that became Pilbara Minerals and now PLS. And at Patriot, we have many similar characteristics, but arguably even better. And that's what's motivated me to move all the way from Perth. You can't get much further from Perth to Montreal.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of flying, and it literally is the other side of the earth. But it's worth going there because the geology at our project, Shakachawana, and it's a bit of a mouthful, but the geology there is absolutely spectacular. And I just felt I had to be a part of it. It's the sort of thing that has the potential to make for another great company, and hence, my hope is that's what we can ultimately achieve.
I'm interested to know how a mining company becomes a success. So you start with great geology. What happens next? What's the secret sauce?
Yeah, secret sauce. Well, it's one of those situations where honestly you do have to innovate, but again, I think there's room for that in the lithium industry. That's one of the things that's attracted me to staying the course. It's an opportunity to attract great talent. Now, in the lithium world, it's pretty small in mining. If you compare it to the rest of mining, you'd still say it's a relatively small industry. But because of those characteristics that represent opportunity, it's new. It's part of changing the global economy. The new energy economy is becoming really important. So that affords an opportunity to attract great talent and build an excellent team. And they're the sorts of things that just honestly motivate me. And I love the idea that I could work with a great team on a great piece of geology and ultimately turn that into a great mining company.
There's quite a lot of pressure on sort of North America, Canada, to really sort of catch up and build up its domestic lithium supply chain. You know, there's this sense of sovereignty, the importance of sovereignty when it comes to these critical minerals and also rare earths, of course. What's your take? Do you think the region is starting to catch up?
Yeah. We're a long way behind, though.
Okay.
Yeah. It's actually a big issue for the West as a whole, let alone, the US and Canada. The raw material supply base that's required for critical minerals is completely different to most historical norms in mining. And the West sort of fell asleep at the wheel, would be my suggestion, in the period of time that the new energy economy has been rising. And China, and arguably a little bit more about Northeast Asia generally, has been at the forefront for probably easily 15 to 20 years now. So that represents a significant lead. What do we do? Well, I don't think we have much choice but to catch up. And that means a lot more effort. And especially at the front end of the supply chain, where we're physically mining and doing that in useful locations around the world. I'd certainly put Canada on the map and Quebec on the map in that regard. But we've got to get busy with the downstream pieces of the supply chain as well. The chemicals, the value-added products, and ultimately the critical metals that make for the new economy that the West, honestly, is just not really ready for. The concentration risk through Northeast Asia is a huge issue for industry and for government, and we've got no choice but to have a red-hot crack now at catching up.
I'm just going to mention that if you can hear clattering plates in the background, that's because it's nearly lunchtime here at the conference. So they're bringing out lunch, which is great for the delegates, but it does mean there's a little bit of background noise. So I just wanted to mention that. Back to our conversation, what is something that people don't maybe fully appreciate about the lithium sector? Are there still misunderstandings, do you think?
I think most people get the link between, the lithium and what it means to the newer formats of batteries. The lithium-ion batteries become the rechargeable battery of choice. The bit that's often missed, though, is what it means to electrify everything. So as the global economy decarbonises, the replacement energy is electricity. And for the most part, I think over time, that's going to become renewable. If the bulk of your energy is generated through renewable resources, there's a reasonable chance that you have to establish energy storage solutions to capture the excess energy when it may not be available, like it's nighttime or the wind's not blowing.
For that continuity of supply.
For the continuity of supply, yeah. So naturally, people want to then say, but if it's not available, then it's not baseload supply. My take on where industry and technology is headed is that this change to an energy storage economy is going to happen much faster than people are currently giving it credit for. And it just so happens that the lithium-ion battery is the leading technology and establishing the right cost base to motivate that baseload energy storage much faster than people are currently assuming. One of the analogies that I share often to try and help explain this phenomenon is to think about what happened with solar panels. Solar panels have become a phenomenon. They've become much cheaper than people had ever imagined. You just think back, even just 10 or 12 years ago, no one imagined the extent to which solar would now be implemented. And as a result, every year when people are trying to forecast solar application, they undercall it. In essence, the combination of lithium raw material demand, but especially as it relates to stationary energy storage and how lithium-ion batteries solve for that, intermittent power, that's going to happen a lot quicker than people currently imagine. So yes, people get the lithium-ion linked to the battery. I just want to, my contention is we're all underestimating how quickly that solution becomes key to the global energy economy.
Do you think there's enough R&D being done on batteries themselves, the design of batteries themselves?
Yeah, it's here, I think also, Georgia, it's good news.
Okay.
Partly because there is so much more that can be done to perfect the batteries. If I look at the lithium-ion battery platform, I'd say it's probably only 50% of the way there. There's another 50% that's yet to come, and industry is actively working on how to perfect its format and the chemicals that go within it and the way they construct the battery. It's all good news because as those batteries improve, they become more energy dense and they become cheaper. And that's the key to growing the addressable market. So in the end, yes, there is a lot more technological improvements to come, but it's good news because it's going to lower the cost of those applications.
Really interesting to get your insights on the wider market there. I'm going to bring it back now to your company and your role within the company, because you've built a lot of teams and managed them through a lot of change. For people listening who are potentially working for companies who are about to go through this, we are potentially about to see a period of very fast growth. How do you stay grounded through periods of extreme volatility?
It's suffice to say it's a challenge. I think but having said that, the understanding is key to motivating the team. So we do spend a lot of time imagining what the future could look like, but at the same time being grounded in respect of today's conditions. Clearly today it's a tough time in lithium markets, but fortunately or unfortunately, we've seen this movie before. In an industry, so a key piece of information to stay grounded, in an industry that's growing at, lithium raw material demand has been growing pretty consistently for some time now at 25 to 30% per annum. With that sort of growth going on in the industry, there can only be a correction. That's the only way the industry is going to continue to sustain. There has to be a price response. So what do you do in the meantime? Well, you set your business up so that you can survive. Quite literally, that's tough and not necessarily much fun. But the survival aspect is key to thriving when the industry turns. That was absolutely our experience at Pilbara Minerals. In fact, it happened twice in the period of time we were building the company. And will there be more volatility? The answer is unfortunately yes. But the key is resilience, surviving the downturn. Which is not easy in its own right, but you have to do that to enjoy the good times that inevitably come.
Does that mean keeping your team lean? Does it mean keeping a very close eye on overheads?
Yeah, it does a bit. Yeah, but not to the point where you can't continue to progress with your project, because you have to be ready. You've got to be ready for the markets as they change. It's also, I guess it's also a bit of a dose of reality too about how an organisation can survive in difficult circumstances, and then using that experience to be a better company, when you're coming out the other side. You can do that internally, but equally you've got to think about how that plays externally with all of your other stakeholders. Customers, might be one, very clear sort of stakeholder that you've got to maintain a relationship with to ensure that at the end of the day you can sell them a product in downtimes and uptimes.
Is the very nature of lithium production, or does the very nature of lithium production make it difficult to upscale quickly? If all of a sudden the price shoots up, does it take a while to then scale up your own production? Oh,
yeah. It's a huge challenge. Yeah, absolutely.
I thought so. I had read into... at least one of the ways of producing lithium, I thought it takes 18 months or something like that.
Yeah, it's measured in years, really.
It's measured in years, okay.
It is, yeah. In fact, to get a mine from from exploration success through to production, you would typically be thinking about mining, large scale operations, 5, 10, even 15 years is not that unusual in the mining game. So when you think about a lithium cycle running through a hot market for 3 years and then a shallow market for 3 years, the idea that you've got to build a mine in 5, 10, 12 years, that's not helpful. That makes life pretty tough. So what do you do? Well, you innovate, you think about what it could take to be ready, and navigating that change is tough. It's tough for everyone, actually. Whether you're a miner at the front end of the supply chain or you're an end user, the volatility in the industry is really problematic, and inevitably it does contribute to cost. So it's something that should be changing as the industry grows. Coming off a small base and a boutique sort of style industry is what's contributed to its volatility. But as the industry goes, you would expect a slightly smoother road, just not no volatility. That's not mining.
It's amazing in many ways that private companies get involved in lithium mining. Like it's surprising in some ways that there isn't more sort of leaning on public sector support for such long-term, volatile, risky projects.
It's part of the explanation as to how China especially has dominated the critical mineral sphere, and lithium, I would suggest, being one of those subsets. They've been prepared to invest through the cycle in a way that the West has found it difficult to do. When we think about what's required to grow the industry, we are going to have to take a different view and be prepared to consider alternative models to historical norms to ensure that these critical minerals come out of the ground, that they're cost competitive, and that ultimately we can guarantee supply. That's really the key issue. And we are going to have to change our behaviour. Otherwise, China will continue to keep dominating a lot of these industries. So it's challenging, it's not easy, but that doesn't mean it can't be done.
Okay, final question. And this is the one I've been asking everyone who's joined me in the live lounge. If you had one takeaway that you were going to leave this conference with in your back pocket, what would be that one sort of final thought?
It's fair to say that people that are investing in the lithium world are finding life tough today. And I completely understand that. It's the world of equities and markets in lithium has been really tough for quite some time now. However, the industry itself, as evidenced by what I would suggest is a healthy crowd here at the Fastmarkets conference, is basically taking a different view. They are setting up for the next round of growth and what's required to see the industry triple over approximately the next 5 to 7 years. Probably something like 5 to 7 times growth by 2035. Industry is really focused on those solutions. They're not necessarily worrying about equity markets today. So what do you take from that? There's hope. Of course there's going to be growth, and the industry itself is looking to solve some of those challenges, and equities will follow.
Ken, thank you. That's an absolutely fascinating conversation, really, far-reaching. We delved into a bit of geopolitics there as well. But in short, a very, very interesting conversation. Thank you very much indeed for your time here on the Fastmarkets Live Lounge. And thank you to everyone who's listening on their headphones as a sort of lunch gradually emerges down here at the event. But it has been really, really fascinating to get that sense of the story behind Patriot and the perspectives that only come with experience. Now, to everyone tuning in, whether you're doing it here with us live or listening back later, thank you for being part of the Live Lounge. Thank you also, of course, to our sponsors, Aquatech. And if you want to catch up on this episode and all of our Live Lounge interviews, you can do that on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you follow us on socials as well. And of course, you can always follow, or comment to be part of the picture. But most of all, thank you for listening.